Yeah, I went out this morning at about 9:30 to our local Best Buy and picked up Frozen so I could watch it before we met.
Thank you.
That movie was good. I really enjoyed it. I mean, the tension and everything associated with it was top notch. I mean, it when you're talking about a film with three characters and on paper you look at it, you're like, well, how much could it actually bring to the table? And it was actually quite good. I really enjoyed it.
That's been one of the joys is that people say three people on a chair, what? And then they're very surprised by it. It's been great.
Yeah, I really dug it. Well, first of all, I want to ask you, what do you have against recreational activities? I mean, a simple swamp boat tour, go skiing. Man, you turn it upside down. So I'm kind of curious. Do you just not like the outdoors?
Well, I think if you really want to scare people, if you can find something scary in something that's not, and really kind of freak people out, I think you're onto something good. And I think Spielberg did it with swimming, with the ocean and Jaws, and Hitchcock did it with everything from your shower stall to basically just being stuck in a room.
Yes, I mean, I agree. It's just kind of a little icebreaker. When you made Hatchet, did you expect it to get the cult following that it has?
No, I had no idea because we were getting no support in trying to get that movie made. When my agent first went around to the studios with the script, the responses we were getting were very frustrating. The one with the most notoriety was a rejection from a major studio that said, "We enjoyed the hell out of this. The writing is brilliant. However, this movie will never get made because it's not a remake, it's not a sequel, and it's not based on a Japanese one." And that was what the climate was in 2004 and 2005. And sadly, it's still the climate in horror. And for those really familiar with the movie, when we did the festival tour, the poster actually said it's not a remake, it's not a sequel, and it's not based on a Japanese one, which kind of was almost like a drumbeat that sort of conjured up all these fans who felt frustrated by that as well. And it was also a good wink to show that the movie had a sense of humor. But we had no idea, because we just made the type of movie that we wanted to see again. It's not something necessarily new. We just put our own kind of creative, fun spin on it and kind of took it to excess and celebrated everything that had come before us. And then, lo and behold, there were just millions of fans worldwide that felt the same way and appreciated it. And now, to go to conventions and appearances all over the world in different countries and see kids with Victor Crowley tattooed on their arms or the Hatchet Army logo tattooed, and it's overwhelming, and it's actually, for me, it's quite emotional. I mean, I invented this character when I was a kid, and I used to get in trouble in school for drawing pictures of Victor Crowley and telling me that it's not going to happen and to give up, and your dad's a gym teacher and you're poor and you don't have any connections and it's not going to happen, and that's been sort of my big stance, is I think there's enough negativity in people's lives and enough people that want to tell you no or tell you the odds. But if I can do this, then I think anybody can, and I hope that people don't give up.
That's really cool. Of course, when I get ready for these interviews, I have questions, and I mean, you answered quite a few of them in one fell swoop, and I really, I dig your honesty. That's quite cool. So, as a fan, and clearly you are one, I assume getting a chance to work with Jason, Freddy, and Candyman was just like a big mangasm. I mean, did it take a lot of convincing to get them all on board for the first one?
Thankfully, the script convinced them because they really saw what the heart of this was, and I think for them, they were very flattered by it because this is sort of the subgenre that they built and that they're the kings of, and having them participate was like a stamp of approval where I think a lot of fans who would have been, they'd heard it before, this whole a movie for the fans, by the fans type thing. You hear it all the time and it doesn't usually live up to it, but by having them, I think a lot of people were willing to give it a chance and say, okay, fine, you know what, I'll try it. And we're very pleasantly surprised that it's delivered. But it's still, to this day, being on set with those guys, I'm still a fan at heart as much as they become some of my closest friends, and I never take that for granted. I'm always just like, holy shit, that's Kane Hodder, that's Danielle Harris, the big one for me on Hatchet 2 was Tom Holland, because Fright Night and Child's Play and Psycho 2 and all these movies that he was responsible for that I just grew up worshiping, and Fright Night was a big influence on Hatchet because it was a movie that took the vampire genre, which had been sort of beaten to death, but found a very, very fun and entertaining way to do a story within it. And that was really my goal with Hatchet, was to take the beaten to death slasher in the woods and bring it around again and make it fun. And I think a lot of those movies in the 80s, they were funny, but they didn't really mean to be funny. And with this, we never had an ego about it, and I think that's what people appreciated.
Yeah, Jerry Dandridge was one of the best vampires ever. You know, I love Fright Night. Fright Night, your dinner's in the oven. That's one of my favorite lines. I mean, I hear they're remaking it, and that kind of, bothers me a little. It worked.
I can say for that remake specifically, because I was sent that by the studio at one point, it's actually, I think they did a really good job, because they stayed true to the tone of the original, but they tried to do something a little bit different, because they know that they can't just try to do beat by beat the same story and please the fans, but they kept the tone of each of the characters and the tone of the movie. And I haven't seen it yet, and I don't know how it came out, but I've heard that Spielberg is very happy with the dailies that he's seeing, and I've got faith in that one. I hope it turns out well.
I hope so. I noticed also that you pulled, I don't know if Cameron Feldman pulled out or you just chose to go with Danielle Harris to did you do that to kind of deepen the roots? I mean, you have Jamie Lloyd and Amy Brackett now, so was that kind of the thing? Now you have Halloween tied into the overall theme of Hatchet?
Well, we do have every major franchise represented now, which is very exciting, and I hope that sort of continues with the Hatchet series if they make more of them. But essentially, it was becoming evident to all of us who were working on it that we were going to have to move in a different direction with Mary Beth, and just basically Tamara reps herself making some very, very bad decisions with things, and we were faced with this problem where you replace a pre-existing character who was already established by another actor with a new actor, and that's so hard to swallow as a fan, and everybody hates it when you do that. But then here was this great opportunity to replace that character with the greatest scream queen of our generation, and it was really a no-brainer. And I think it's one of those things where we turned lemons into a whole lemonade stand, because the fans have been so excited about Danielle taking over that role, and she really, really owns it. I mean, that role didn't have that much to do in Hatchet 1 because she was supposed to be the quiet, introverted one who knows something that the others don't know. And in Hatchet 2, it's really Mary Beth's story. So to have Danielle take over that character and own it the way she has is phenomenal.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I know it's going to be playing right around me, honestly. I was shocked that, because I guess you're speaking to someone in Georgia, not that my accent gives too much away, I assume. But being in the Bible Belt, the fact that an unrated film was given an opportunity to play in Kennesaw, Georgia, is shocking. I expected to find it downtown, but I did not expect to find it up here close to where I live. So I'm actually quite excited. I'm gonna go check it out on Friday.
Great.
Now, what made you get into filmmaking?
For me, it really started playing with my Star Wars action figures as a little kid.
Awesome.
I was very obsessed with staying true to the storyline and the characters. Even just the way I would look at my toys and position them, it was always very cinematic in trying to play with them like the movies. And then when I saw E.T. For the first time, I was old enough to understand that it wasn't real. I knew that E.T. didn't even look that real at times and that it was a rubber puppet. But yet, by the end of that movie, I was so emotionally devastated and just crying my eyes out. And all I could think of afterwards was, how did it do that? How did it manipulate me like that? Was it the music? Was it the